everyone. Welcome. My name is Abigail Gibbons. I'm here with Majken. She's the founder of the Global Goals World Cup. And today we're going to be hosting our next episode of the WOW series interviews. So we sit down with our speakers from our panel events and we talk about their challenges in their workplace, their advice for the next generation to help advance our mission of equality. So I'm so excited to be with her here today. We're going to be talking about sport for social impact, her journey to starting the Global Goals World Cup, and we'll chat a little bit about what to expect at the event that she'll be speaking at this coming January 9th, 2021. So Majken, I'll let you take it away. We were introduced through a mutual contact, and I would love to have you introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me to be here today. And hi, everyone. I'm Majken, and I am in Copenhagen, where I live. Before the COVID, I spent a lot of time traveling around the world and organizing football tournaments for women. We'll talk more about that. But, you know, when somebody asks you what are the challenges in your life that you've seen, I think seen also in my previous life where I spent years of producing films, but then I jumping into the world of sports, it is almost as if it's an endless amount of challenges, right, that you have to go through. But the overall, I think for me, was the sense of belonging. You know, first, you know, growing up, and I was this, you know, I love playing sports, and I also love the arts, and so you know, I jumped into to the art world and starting in working in the film industry. And at some level, I didn't really feel that I belonged in that world. And then when I moved into the world of sports, I also didn't really feel, and maybe I still don't really feel I belong in that, which I really want to challenge that in all of us, that we really feel that, you know, how do we find that sense of belonging in where we are, being the ones that we are, just being me for being me, you know?
Absolutely. I love that. And I think about that often too. You know, when we first connected, we talked about how we both played sports growing up. And, you know, by no means were we a professional athlete or anything of that space, but we saw what sport did for us, and especially what it can do for a woman. You know, I find that a lot of my kind of drive and confidence came from playing sports growing up. You know, it teaches you how to be a team player. It teaches you how to push yourself, and it kind of ingrains in you all these different qualities that you can take when it comes to starting your own business or when it comes to starting the Global Goals World Cup. And another point you said that I really think hits home is kind of like that imposter syndrome, feeling like you don't belong in an industry, or like you don't have the right qualifications. Or, you know, for me, sometimes I think I like to have these conversations on sport and social impact and what it can do for women. But sometimes I think I don't fit in either. You know, I'm like, I wasn't a professional athlete, or, you know, I was only a swimmer, and same with you, with being from the media industry and then in the sport industry. But it's so important that we have these conversations with women like you, because you can show us, you know, we do fit in here, or we don't have to fit in a specific box in our career. You know, we can have multi-interests and passions and try different things.
I asked a friend of mine on she lives in San Francisco, but then right now she moved her family for a few months to a you know, small little place in Barbados to in just to work on, you know, their family sanity in a sense, right? Because they've been in lockdown, but they've also been, before the lockdowns, there have been these tremendous fires where they leave their house, right? Or they had to suddenly leave their house. And so the level of, so many things, right? So she just got down there and they're out of their quarantine period. And, you know, you could see the ocean. And I asked her, listen, also, how are you doing getting into your menopause period, you know? And when I ask people that question, because it is the time that we're getting into, right? Then most people say, you know, oh, it's some hard times, which I'm sure, of course, there also is, but she bursted out and just saying, I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, yeah, she said, listen, I realize that the time I'm in right now is the time I was in before I started my period, almost the same thing. I'm coming back to the time when I was 13 years old and I was me. I was never debating me. I was just me, you know.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
greatness in that. And so in a sense, I wanted, maybe we should all learn how to keep our 13-year-old me, along when we get into our, periods and sexuality and this whole, but
Yeah.
keep that me person, don't let it get too distracted. Also, especially now we know that it's coming back, when you get older, suddenly you become more of you, in that sense. So
Yeah.
if we could make sure that we fill that gap, or that we are complete throughout all our lives in just being who we are. And then, of
Yeah.
course, interacting, knowing enough about each other, knowing about the elite world or the amateur world, and the different things. What are we, each of us, fighting for in those different worlds? It's okay that they are different and we don't know, but we can still collaborate and work together and speak of them on each other's behalf, and trust that we all want to do great for each other and for our world.
Absolutely. You're saying so many great things that I love. I can't wait to share. But no, exactly. I've thought about that too recently. I'm not sure why, but I've thought about, often when we get into high school and then our young adult career and all of that, we tend to lose bits of pieces of ourselves. And especially as a young woman, we want to do what we think is right, which tends to be what other people think is right for us. So I love what you said about staying true to our 13-year-old selves and carrying that with us on our journey. It's such an important reminder. And,
But there's all the things that we cannot solve. If I
mhm,
had, if I had the probably the brains or the balls or whatever it is to to uh, to think more of how the financial structure of our world is put together, I think I would
yeah,
have challenged that, right? I didn't
yeah,
have that capacity. I didn't have that education, or it wasn't about an education, but it was about the creative mind of rethinking maybe something where it would be more inclusive, especially more inclusive of women in
mhm,
the financial world. But I didn't, and then I said, okay, but I can work in sports. I know how to play. I think play is important. I think
mhm,
the idea of seeing people performing is very artistic. As a player, it's an artistic expression that is amazing to watch when it's played. It doesn't matter if it's whatever level, as long as you can see
mhm.
how the person is enjoying doing that play performance. And then I looked at that and said, okay, within that area, I have the possibility of creating some kind of change, or add some, in my sense, bigger gender balance in the world of sports.
Absolutely. No, exactly. And why don't we go ahead? So this interview is really to talk about you, right, and your journey. But I think it would be great to share a bit about how you started the Global Goals World Cup and what it is, because what I personally love about it is exactly as you said, you're bringing together all different levels of sport and athleticism. From people who just want to come to raise money and have fun, to people who are sophisticated in the sport and have played and have competed. So I would love for you to share with us a little bit more about, just what the Global Goals World Cup is, why you started it, and then we'll jump into our two questions.
Absolutely. So just tracking back a little bit, in 15 years ago, who Mette Frederiksen, who is our now prime minister, she wasn't at the time, but she pulled a group of women together, and I was one of them. And she said, "Listen, we want to try to see if we can create more active images of women in media." And I was, of course, producing films at the time, but then I was like, okay, maybe this is the time for me to look at my old sports, and which was football, right? So I started looking at it, and at that time, it was in a sad shape, women's football, right? So I went out to a fashion magazine and just said to them, "Listen, could we create a football tournament for women, for all women, but make it media strong in that sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are the media partner in this, and we'll get some great, amazing acting friends of ours to join in as being ambassadors and stuff like that." And this is what we started now, 15 years ago, and we've had these a massive amount of football tournaments for women ever since. Played at music festivals, as fashion weeks, and in the city of Copenhagen, and just really playful. So I think when the UN suddenly was not suddenly, but was going to implement the Sustainable Development Goals, then for us, we've always been in that space of doing good is a horrible experience, a strange expression, but anyway, navigating and creating more space for women and women in sports, right, by doing those tournaments. And so for us, it was, we were looking at the icons and say, listen, you know, we already changed the rules and say the winning team in our tournaments were the ones that was the most sensational. So who could come in, and it was never just about playing football. It was always about, you know, in a sense, throwing the biggest party as a team, right? So so we looked at it and said, maybe this is the time for us to, you know, try to go global with our event and try to get out into the world, and then also adjust the rules so it would be a tournament where we didn't take the goals. I mean, we said we had to put the global goals as first. You know, they had to be forefront in every activity. So of course we also made a ball with all the icons on, but then it became like also part of the rules. So, you know, in our tournament, after each game, you get 4 points. You get one for creative style, because we have to learn how to recycle and upcycle. You get one from engaging the crowd. Again, we have to speak up about the changes that we want to see. You get 1 point for football, because we all need to love to play. And you get 1 point for an activation that you have done for one of the global goals. So we just kind of, we just changed the rules, and then we started traveling out into the world, you know, and it wasn't so different from making a tournament in Copenhagen to making a tournament in Nairobi or in Kampala or, you know, Mumbai. It was, you realize it was just amazing women around there who wanted to engage in creating these type of events. So that's what we've been doing now. And now, of course, we are on hold. We are crossing our fingers and hope that we can play. The next one will be in Jordan in April. And
Incredible. I love that. And something I told Majken when we first met was, some people fangirl, you know, over like celebrities or people in media or an influencer. I was so thrilled to be connected because I've been such a huge fan of the Global Goals World Cup. I actually first found out about it a little bit here in that SAP, you know, the SAP Next Gen space when I went to visit, but actually more so when I spent some time in South America, which, how cool is that? I found out about this because of the different tournaments that were going on in South America and Central America, which was really cool. So I've been a huge fan for a while, and I think it's so incredible how she's built this, and how I think what's really the most incredible in my eyes is you created something that's so transferable around the world. You know, as you just said, you can host these in global cities, and it's pretty seamless, you know, more or less to host, because the mission is universal and what you're doing is universal and the sport is universal. So I can't wait to finally attend an event when everything is back to normal. And I'm so excited about this, and for you to share more about how you actually started it with our audience in January. So
we'll get to that January 9th. Right.
Yes, we will get to January 9th. I'm so excited to talk a bit more about that. So on January 9th, yes, Majken's speaking on a panel, and what I love is it's connecting truly generations of different career levels and growth. We have, you know, really new entrepreneurs who just started their careers in the fitness industry. They left their corporate job. And then we have Majken, who started and has been doing this for a while and has created a truly global community that's centered in change and inclusivity in the global goals. So she will be speaking on a panel there. We'll talk a bit more about it before we wrap up. But I always love to end these interviews. You know, we start off getting to know our speaker and kind of hearing more about their journey, but also talk about a challenge they've had to overcome and their advice. So Majken talked about it a little. She mentioned that she, you know, the kind of the issue of fitting into a box, feeling like no matter where in your career as a female, sometimes we feel like we don't fit in, especially in the spaces of media, especially in the spaces of sports. So I would love for you to talk a bit more about that challenge.
Yeah, I mean, it's so many of them. I think that what helped me is creating something that is visible, right? So
Mhm.
I remember when I was young and I was running a movie house in Copenhagen, and that was my entry into to the film industry. And then I went to LA, and without really knowing anything or anybody, was just trying to knock down doors and see if you could get work as a runner. And there was one person that said, and of course this has been a million, times that people have said that, but it struck me at the time that says there's such a difference between the people who have made a film and who hasn't.
Mhm.
So for me, it was like, okay, you really need to get that first product under the belt, or and I think so. For me, I think also just making the football was okay.
Yeah.
Figuring out, okay, I call the English FA. Okay, listen, do you know of a factory that will I just need to make 8 balls, right? I don't need to.
Yeah.
We have calculated to create develop a ball that was more fitted to our physically size, and so I needed somebody to go along with it. So that process of calling, figuring out with the factory, oh, so most places, most balls are being made in Pakistan. Who knew, right? Then
Mhm.
figuring out and going into a dialogue with Pakistan, but then also finding out who works with. Are you sure that there's no child labor? Are you then also sure that
Mhm.
there's no pollution in the materials that you use? So the whole process of learning how to create a product, I think, was super important for me. And I would say, go and learn how to do it. And it can be, in a sense, any product. Learn the process of doing it. The same with the event. When we
Mhm.
when we carry someone, not carry, but when we do the tournaments in other countries, we have people locally on the ground that we work with, and we kind of guide them through and learning how to do an event if they haven't done it before, right? So there's a whole process of
Mhm.
many months in doing that, and the power of it, to see them when they realize they pulled off their first World Cup tournament in their own country, and they've been in all
Yeah.
media, they've been in all dialogues with amazing people who have joined in, and all the amazing teams that have been doing all of these activations. It is such a feeling that you can conquer that thing of making an activity, making something. Yeah. So I think that for me has been a thing, really, to not be afraid of that.
Mhm.
Maybe because, again, maybe I was that was my type of world. There's also people who can really change laws, right? They know how to write
Yeah.
and know how to communicate, and equally important is just taking that challenge of ending up with an end product, or an end law change, or an end
Mhm.
thing is such a gift to yourself.
Absolutely. I love that. Just learning. It's like no matter where you are, just doing it. It's essentially it, figuring out how to create the product or creating your first event or whatever it might be. I love that. It's incredible. Do you have any other, advice that you wish you could tell your younger self or the next generation?
I mean, trust in yourself. Read
Yeah.
good books written by other women.
Mhm.
I think Abby Wambach
Oh
has
yeah.
written a
Yeah.
great book that crosses cultures and ages and everything like that. In trusting in that you also count in the world equally as
Mhm.
anyone else. Your ideas, no matter what level stage the ideas are in, they all count into the conversation. And it's
Mhm.
complicated to trust that, right? And speak up and find
So
people to
complicated.
talk to.
Yeah.
So complicated, and find people to talk to about it, and dare to say that, listen, I'm lost in figuring out my way of doing it. Can anyone please help me navigate in this space? Then I'll also say to everyone, trust people in
Mhm.
general. Just decide to trust people, and you can
Mm.
practice it by
Yeah.
trusting everyone in your building, your neighborhood. You can leave your door open. You can find many ways of trusting. Don't let fear come into your world. And now we have a chance to trust each other without knowing each other. So we haven't met, but I have absolutely
Mhm.
100% faith in you, and trust you, and I would trust you, I'm sure, throughout my entire life. So it's make that decision within yourself to see that in people, because there's so many amazing things that pops out of all people.
I love that advice. And I've always been similar in that way, just trust people. And I think what's so important about what you just said is trust people, your peers, your network. But what you said was your neighborhood, your communities. I think oftentimes we're influenced by media or by even like underlying racism is like a whole new topic, but we're kind of taught who we should trust and who we shouldn't. But I love that if you just approach the world in a way where you're trusting everyone, from someone on the street to someone in your work to someone you just met like me here on Zoom. That's so important. And I think that is an incredible note to wrap it up on. You said so much great advice, from the challenges that I know we can all relate to asking for help when you need it, trusting yourself, which, as you said, can be so complicated, especially when we want to do something that's not traditional, stepping outside of the corporate world, starting a business, starting a nonprofit, doing something that's different than what the norm is. So I'm very excited to be talking about that in a month from now. And you can learn more on my Instagram, which is the WOW series. You can learn more on our website. You can reach out to Majken or the Global Goals World Cup on Instagram, on LinkedIn, however you like. You can reach out to us. We'll be posting more information, but this panel is really going to be for the fitness-minded, the global social impact-minded professional who's looking to start their career in this industry. And Majken and our panelists are going to be sharing incredible advice for how they started it. It's going to be inspirational and practical, and I'm so excited.
Just to end it, there's nothing better than having a great team to play with. It doesn't matter what sport, what level, just find a great team that you have. They will be your friends forever. You can have them in, So find a great team, whatever age you're in, doesn't matter, just find a great team. Best advice.
I love that. That is the perfect way to end this interview. Find a great team. I'm so happy to be building my team here at the WOW series alongside women like Majken. Thank you so much. It's honestly such a pleasure. I'm so happy to have you in my community, in our community, and to continue to talk with you in a month and beyond that, and with the Global Goals World Cup. So definitely reach out to her. We'll be sharing more about their Take the Ball initiative in this post, which I'm excited to share more about too. And we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much for joining me.